content managers cut you off.
Yeah, it's like being on, I guess, YouTube, scrubbing my content there, Chip.
Yep.
And isn't
Can't
this,
talk about gambling on a Zoom call.
that's right. Um, Sassy report is going to be out around that time too, though, right, Jim?
It is, yes. So our plan is to actually put it in the hands of everyone at Rudda Boom first.
Hmm. Jim, that's a seat drop, so we're gonna have to talk to you about that, all right? All right, okay. Amy, over to you.
Sure. Some very, very quick updates. FortiFest is still running through next week. So continue adding your partners and just using it to its fullest. Office hours also kick off next week. I'll share that link just as a reminder for those of you who weren't here in previous weeks. We have Ben Jones and Anthony Draker who are going to be just having this call to help you guys use the platform, answer questions, talk about trends that you're seeing, and set up rules. Whatever it is you need, open office hours for y'all to join in on the fun.
Awesome. And let's see, is Liran with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, Liran.
Hey,
I put together, if you want, I know you want to talk about CIS first, but I loved what you said, and I'm just going to give a quick visual of what possibilities to whet everybody's appetite. So you're going to be talking about templates in a marketplace of templates to get people's pulse. This happens to be a visual from Roos Marketplace, and I wanted to show this to everybody because Aaron, the CEO of Roos, was also the CEO of CORK Security, where he launched a marketplace there so that partners didn't have to recreate the wheel in terms of various integrations and monitoring capabilities, and they created the same thing in Roost, and it's really one of the big assets, I would say, of a community, that you don't have to recreate the wheel on certain things. So this is just an example of some of their templates that partners can go, well, we do that, we use that tool, and how much time it saves, etc. So I'm teasing everybody here, and I'll stop sharing, Liran, so that you can talk about what you're thinking. But starting it off, we can talk about some CIS, because this is real exciting.
Yeah, so I talked to Jim right before this call, and we had like this whole game plan for how we're gonna talk about the marketplace, and that game plan is kind of out the window. But
Liran, we can still do that. So we can start with the templates, and then you can talk about CIS. How about that?
All right, sure.
Okay. So yeah, so Liran and I were talking about this Fortify template idea, and specifically marketplaces. And we know that a lot of you essentially engage with different marketplaces. There wouldn't be a lot of interaction if I just said, hey, you guys think that we should have a marketplace? Of course you're going to say that. You're going to say yes, but what we want to do is we want to get a little more engagement going here and understand from you which marketplaces that you participate in that you think are the best and why. So we can actually glean some information from you on how to best approach ours. We have ideas. It's not like we're foreign to the idea of how to put this together, but we want your ideas first before we just go heads down on what we're thinking. So anyone out there currently belong to a marketplace or participate in a marketplace that you think is really good and someone we should probably go for? Anybody
here? Jim, you're gonna have to start calling on people.
Beeler.
Nobody's let's see, or a previous market, and no one was a Perch customer, no one's a Roost customer.
No one's a ConnectWise customer.
Yeah, right. Lumiere, amazing. Let's see, Lumiere. I'm assuming, Jason, they have a marketplace. We use the ceiling. Ben, why don't you give your, put your MSP hat back on, talk to us about how you use marketplaces. Maybe that'll spur. I'm surprised no one is using a marketplace.
Ben?
Oh,
he's taking off soon. He's literally just probably on his phone right now.
Yeah,
On the plane.
Yeah, I think I think he was boarding soon.
Okay.
Okay. What's getting in trouble with the FAA? Isn't SaaS alerts worth getting in trouble with the FAA, Ben?
I'm your friendly TSA agent. I'm going to take you to a private room.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, in this case, the fact that no one's got opinions, Jim. Maybe we could just get a little banter from what you and Liran were thinking, or what the marketplaces you've seen that you guys have liked.
Okay, enable script marketplace is one that's quite mature. Okay. Anyone else using that one? Okay. So Jason mentions open sharing. That is our intent as well, by the way. So, I guess we can, Liran, we can share. Yep. Kaseya's automation exchange. I've got a lot of, I'm familiar with that one. Got a lot of experience with it. People seem to like it. But one of the things that we're thinking about doing is saying, look, participate in the exchange. First of all, Liran, do you want to highlight what we're thinking? And then I'll talk about how we plan on potentially gamifying it and see what people think about that.
Sure. So as part of the marketplace, what we plan to do is, you guys are aware, and I'll talk about the CIS actions in a bit. We're going to be releasing new Fortify actions pretty much week in, week out. And I think we're got to be north of 70 today, started around 30. And what we plan to do there is allow you the ability to create templates. It's been it was a requested feature before we even released Fortify. That's how many people have asked me for this. So we're going to be putting this together. And so what you can do is you can have a CIS template, which we'll talk about. You can have different templates for different security levels that you can apply. And then in order to standardize your security offering across all of your different organizations and do so at scale, you'll be able to select a whole bunch of organizations and say, apply my platinum template, and then say go. And we will deploy all of the recommended actions that are connected to that template, and those will get deployed. And from a marketplace, what does that mean? It means that when I make a template, I have the option to make it public, right? Some of these templates we know that we have respond partners that create respond rules that are proprietary to them, and they would never want to share those. They believe it's part of their secret sauce. But in other cases, we have templates that apply to everybody. Exactly. That's our IP. I just saw that. And create the template, make it public, and bring it back to the community. And that's kind of what the template is going to do. If you see a template that you really like, you'll be able to clone it, maybe change it, or just deploy it to as many tenants as you'd like. That's kind of the general idea.
Yeah, and one of the, to encourage participation, one thing we're thinking about is essentially creating a point system. So if you have a template that you've created and it's copied, at least, let's just call it, for the sake of this conversation, 100 times at a minimum, but it's also copied the most times over the course of the quarter, again, with that minimum being 100, then we provide you with, $500 once a quarter, whoever the highest participant is in terms of copied templates, we provide you with a $500, MDF spiff.
Jim,
So-
it's almost like you could have your own fantasy. Like, I mean, like, how collegiate athletes now are, they're getting paid.
NIL,
Right.
yeah.
We could even get into kind of gamification of this,
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, I think it's for the betterment of the community, but we also want to, somehow reward folks that are, pushing their stuff out and it's, liked the most, and, reward people for creating things that other people like.
Yeah.
Hey, can I ask a question really quick?
Yeah.
So one of the concerns I've had about sharing some of the rules that we've created as a byproduct of a BEC that we fix or whatever is I just, and I mean, Andrew can speak to this, but I don't know when in so doing how much feedback that may create, how much questions and answers, and in some of the environments where I've shared, hey, this is a script we put together. It creates a lot of dialogue back and forth and questions and, hey, what about this? And I don't know that I or any of my team really kind of have the time to engage.
Right.
So that's why I've been hesitant to do it so far. Is we just, there's some IP secret sauce in there, but let's be real with each other. None of it's really that. The client can see it anyway, or the MSP can see what we do anyway. But I just wanted to ask that question about how that if there is any dialogue between
Right.
something that's offered, or is it offered kind of
Right.
There's really no dialogue.
I think that's a great point, Jason. And I think my attitude toward it would be, look, you spend the time, you share, you put it in, and that's it. Like,
Yep.
this isn't a situation where, you have to defend it or say, announce all the reasons why you did it or the use cases that you saw that forced you to do it or wanted you to do it. It's just, hey, this is what it is. If you want it, go export yourself and get after it. If not, you don't have to. Like, no one's got a gun to your head.
And
Yeah. Jim, it's almost like GitHub, right? You put something up in GitHub, it's not going to be like, and Jim, what do I do? And
Right.
like, you want it, it's there. Like
Right.
John Tran and Black Hills aren't sitting there answering 52 questions a day on the stuff they put up in GitHub.
Right.
and
We'll do one for a BC that's unique. We'll add them to all our MSP tenants, but I've been loath to share for that very reason. So if we can just put it out there and maybe have, a small comment section as to why we created it, or offer some dialogue or some additional info, and then leave it at that.
Mhm.
I'd
So-
be much willing or happy to put those out there. So thanks.
we definitely plan to have a description section. The respond templates today have a description section. When you create a Fortify template, you will have the opportunity to explain what it does. And we do plan to internally review anything that gets published to the community as a whole. So it's going to be reviewed at least by us when it comes out, but we do not expect you to support any templates that you put out. And ultimately, it's your choice whether or not you want to release that template.
I wouldn't have any idea. I wouldn't have any problem with a challenging question from SaaS alerts directly as to, what its goal and you did it. But outside of that, that'd be great. Yeah. So, thanks.
I look forward to seeing and challenging your templates, Jason.
Let's be real clear about why we're going to review, though, guys. We're not reviewing for efficacy. Our interest in reviewing is to make sure actually that a rule template that someone puts out there doesn't create a raceway condition in the system itself. So, we're not going to be judging efficacy or utility. We're just going to be making sure it can't break anything.
Yeah. Good point, Chip. Okay. People like this idea? Creating a marketplace for templates, people to share. Okay. Cool. Okay. So we shall proceed down that path. Liran, you want to tackle CIS now?
I do. So we've released some new CIS actions. I'm going to show you those. And as you guys know, we like to release things basically as soon as they're ready, right? Fresh out of the oven, and get those to you. And we very much believe in fact, it's part of our DNA, you could say, progress over perfection. So these actions that I'm going to show you should be available for you right now. Can you guys see my screen?
We can.
Yes.
And
All right. So I'm logged into Fortify here. I'm connected to an E5 tenant, Microsoft tenant. And if I come in here and then I just do a search for CIS, in order to get this to you short term and to make them searchable, we just kind of put them into parentheses like this. And you can see the various CIS actions that are coming out. But rest assured that we are going to be, at this time, what we're thinking is adding a new column. The new column will have the framework information available for you, so you'll be able to see that. I just want to highlight that putting things in parentheses is not our long-term goal for handling these. And then we'll also, inside the details, somewhere here, we'll be telling you exactly which of the Office 365 CIS controls we're referring to. But this has been a highly requested set of recommended actions. I think I mentioned before, there's 81 of them, and we're just going to work our way down the list and give them to you as quickly as we can. And when the templates come out, you'll be able to take our CIS template, you'll be able to clone it, and you'll be able to apply as many of the CIS recommended actions as we have across all of your different tenants.
this is awesome. I just want to say to you, Jim, Chip, and Liran, you know, as a huge supporter of CIS and what they're doing for the MSP ecosystem, people need to understand this is not trivial, that you have to make an investment in CIS. They don't just hand you the stuff over. And I hope everybody knows that, you know, Chip, what you guys did on the, you know, getting together with Phyllis and the team is not just hand us over something and thanks. If you guys just want to touch on that, Jim.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think Chip and Liran should touch on it more. Actually, they're the ones that have really been in this from the beginning and kind of, you know, up their eyeballs in it at this point. Chip, you want to talk to it?
Yeah, I mean, you know, CIS has been very forward in encouraging, you know, MSP adoption of the program and participation as CIS members. So, you know, we would definitely encourage all of our MSPs to participate as CIS members and get the most value out of their research and out of the incredible amount of effort that they put into organizing a cross-framework approach to policy management.
Yeah, and what I meant specifically, Chip, is that you guys have to do, you have to, you know, it's one thing for an MSP to do a membership, it's a whole nother thing for a vendor.
Right.
I just want to thank you guys for doing that, because, you know, MSPs ask, hey, can you make it CIS friendly? Can you, you know, do those types of things, because that's what we align to. That's not trivial in terms of investment of coding and investment into CIS. That's all.
Yep, agreed.
Andrew, you see anything new about the buttons here?
Oh, I noticed it right away. I like it. I bet you're getting a lot of feedback on that, Liran.
People are telling me it's the best change that we've made to the product.
Yeah, exactly. Andrew, we signed 10 new partners this week on that change alone.
That's why they came up to you at Troop here.
Yeah, exactly.
I heard from all of them.
Yeah.
No, that was really good feedback. So thank you, Andrew. Seriously.
No, my pleasure. Awesome stuff.
So Chip, Chad's putting you on the spot here.
I see that.
So you want to talk to Google Workspace? Chad's our resident Google guy.
Yeah, let me pull up the chat. Gotcha. So Chad, Google Workspace, introducing Google Workspace both to Respond and Fortify is on the top of the 2024 roadmap. So we will be digging in, and it'll be starting on the Respond side. That's going to be the first place we go with Google Workspace, so that you can get sort of the same live treatment of account management when an account compromise is suspected as we get with Microsoft. So that will be the first push. And then begin looking at how we can manage the Google tenants in the same way we do Microsoft from a Fortify perspective. That's a little bit more challenging, but looks possible. And both of those things are on the roadmap.
And Chad, I would just say to stay in touch with your account manager on this, because they're the ones that attend our weekly product meetings. And wow, 50K users begging for that. That might change things a little bit from a priority standpoint. But what we're trying to do is we have to assess. There's a lot of work that goes into assessing whether or not it's feasible to do inside the Google Workspace environment. And we're certainly excited and eager and want to get into that for sure.
Good stuff. All right, Liran, any other things, or anybody have any other questions for the dev team before we have our special guest join us?
So let's chat. Is another question here about reports against the compliance rules. There already is a report constructed, Chad, in the reports section of the South Alerts app. You may know that reports itself is a slightly different interface than the managed environment, but there is a report that's already constructed to be run on a client-by-client basis that offers the details of where they are with their secure score and what rules have been implemented and what rules remain to be implemented.
Good stuff, Joe. That good, Chad?
Got it.
Awesome. Any other things?
So
All right. Awesome stuff. Looking forward to hearing people's feedback. Just yes or no, a Y or N, are you doing anything with CIS? Are you going to go in there and start messing around with what Liran and team have done? Any CIS folks on the call? Hope more than. All right. Good to see. All right. So special guest, we got Carlson Choi, the CEO of CORK. I'm excited about this, Jim. I'm excited about it because cyber insurance and warranties are, like I had a conversation, interestingly, with an MSP the other day that all he works is, or I shouldn't say all, 90+% of his customers are banks. And yeah. And if you are familiar with, the audits of the FFIEC and, what the regulatory requirements are, believe it or not, a lot of it is nuanced in the audit, like we recommend, right? And even MFA to a degree in certain aspects of their core banking, like their core banking system, as an example. Core banking is so old, it doesn't even have MFA, so they have to do workarounds to get it. My point of setting the stage and the excitement of bringing on Carlson is we're going to be talking about how monitoring for security controls is changing, how warranties are changing those things, and how they're kind of the tail wagging the dog, I think, in the cyber industry. And the reason I wanted to talk about that MSP and banking, Jim and team, is because his cyber insurance conversations that he's been brought into, those drove more security MRR than the audits around the FFIEC have. So I'm not sure if anybody's experienced that, but that to me was pretty eye-opening that even the regulatory things like, we think regulation is going to drive security controls. Cyber insurance drove more. So, and then the other thing, Jim, is with cyber warranties, I think they're much more progressive. And I think we're going to see, I'm hoping, things around SaaS monitoring that progress much more efficiently than we're seeing in the cyber insurance world. It still gets me that still hasn't risen up as a top security control. But hopefully
it's insane. It really is insane. One of the things not to steal anything with this topic right now, but in my presentation at Troop here, I brought somebody up on stage and I said, you've just been a car accident. You've got a slight laceration that requires 5 stitches over your eye. You've got a broken ankle. You have a compromised artery that's producing internal bleeding close to the heart. Which one do you want to take care of first? And the guy on stage was like, take care of the internal bleeding. I said, why? He's like, well, that's the highest priority. That's the one that's going to save my life. I'm like, okay, now let's translate that to the environments that you take care of on behalf of your customers all the time. What is the most important application that they touch every single day, that every user touches, that other applications touch? It's 365 or Google Workspace if they're on that instead, right? So why aren't we doing everything we can to triage that and prioritize that treatment, right, over everything else?
Yeah, it's a great segue into introducing Carlson. And Carlson, after you introduce yourself, first of all, thanks for joining us. I do want to ask you, how is it that, when you look at every single threat report in 2023, where initial access brokers and credential theft and, botnets, like info stealers, like credentials and M365 are where things are at. Like, so before we ask you that question, that's what I want to ask, but please introduce yourself and thanks for joining the Saa y Call.
Hey, thanks for giving us some time when they're here. They're really interesting, kind of learn more from this community. And I think when Andrew and I kind of get connected through Ryan, he said, "Hey, I think the SaaS community would love to hear of this, warranty thing that you guys been talking about, right? And what is a problem you're trying to solve at CORK?" So a little background about myself. I think probably if anybody look me up in LinkedIn, I'll probably have the most unusual career in life. As my wife will tell you that, my husband can't seem to hold down a job longer than 3 years. He will go from industry to industry, job to job to job. And I go, "Oh, hang on one moment. Let me get this right." What I've done is I was interesting enough. The thing that's similar is I would jump from industry to industry to break things. You ask the crazy question, why would you do it this way? Why won't you do it another way, a better way, right? As early as my days in the video game space, I think that's the only thing I'm proud of in life. Work for Activision Blizzard. We brought game from online disc to digital delivery. I remember the sales team said, "Oh, you're going to destroy my business." Years later, guess what? Digital is what drives the business. Then I got in the restaurant business talking about, well, this delivery thing's going to be great. The in-store manager said, "No, nobody's ever going to go delivery." Then COVID came. Live was good for me, right? Then most recently, when I got brought into this venture, when Austin McCord, after we left Addo, and said, "Hey, look, we're looking to break into this cyber insurance thing." I go, "Stop right there. I want nothing to do with the insurance space. This is a complete cigar smoking, Bermuda visitors business." But he goes, "We want to create a product that the channel business, the MSP space, they can make net new MRR for." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm ready to hear. Let's talk about this." And that's really how we got started this venture. And a little bit about CORK. I'm sure some of you might have heard of recently. There's been a lot of noise about what CORK is. The best way I will also describe this is think of it this way: the pain that you do every single day. I think Jim, Andrew, you guys talked a little about it, right? Dealing with cyber insurance policy. Though it is, a lot of the fastest growing MRR for you, there's still a lot of risk just even signing the form saying, "I attest the fact that we are using backup, that we are using this form of EDR, that we have MFA on." The moment that form gets signed and acknowledged, guess what happened next? The carrier will never talk to you again or your client again for another year when the policy is due or when something goes wrong. And when something goes wrong, guess what happened? The table turned back on you as MSP because now they go, is there something you didn't do? And you end up spending a lot of time scraping for logs and all the detail in place to protect your business and protect your client. Now, 6 months, 9 months later in that process, where do you find out? At the end, it was one simple human error on the client side. Everybody's unhappy. People lost money, lost business and pain. And ultimately, at the end, you as MSP, you're not actually gaining any type of protection, or for that matter, any financial coverage. You're not actually getting additional MR. So the way that we approach it a little bit differently at CORK is we actually start with, you guys are real familiar with Andrew and Ryan's doing, kind of the right of boom, right? We start on the left of boom. We have a modern platform that integrated existing security stack. Very similar like what Jim said, right? You want to fix the internal bleeding first. A lot of the solution we've seen in the market is outside in scanning. We start from an inside out perspective. We integrate right through your RMM into the EDR stack, your existing security stack, and using that as a way to underwrite to start.
Carlson, look, thanks for that. Maybe just like level set.
Yeah.
Like, what is a side? Like, again, I don't know if a lot of people, I would argue, I'm still getting to know this. And maybe just a quick show of hands, yes or no. Are you familiar with what a cyber warranty is? And just be honest, versus cyber insurance, why for, I absolutely know what it is. And for not know or not sure, just throw something in chat, but maybe just if you could level set for us, Carlson, like what is a cyber warranty? Because you see them out there.
I'll put it in a good term that's easy for us. Kind of the difference between a warranty versus insurance. That insurance cover for almost anything from liability to the extension of the loss of your business, while warranty cover for a very specific event from happening. I'll take an example, right? Using Apple Care or Google Preferred Care, right? If you're a Google person or Blue Bubble, Green Bubble, right? There's a Google Preferred Care and Apple Care that protect your phone and devices that you purchase, right? In the case of glass breakage, that warranty cover for the repair for the glass. Now, in case that you broke that glass breakage, you cut your finger and you start bleeding out and you need to go get stitches on that. Well, that's the liability piece that the warranty doesn't cover, and that's where your insurance take over. So insurance take on other items that are longer tails, things that are sequentially happen based on a specific incident. So warranty cover a very specific type of incident. That's kind of how I always look. It's the easiest way to connect the dot, right? So
yeah, really cool. So maybe we can dovetail into like for helping MSP that's on the call. Like, so you mentioned, you look at it inside out, and that's one of the things we're going to get to. But like, can you give an example of, as an MSP, why do I care about a warranty? Like, how is it going to help me or help a client?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things, right? A lot of, many of MSP that's been selling, partnering with us on the CORK side of it, they actually using it as a differentiation against the competition. They can go out for a bit for a managed service agreement, but within that, they're actually providing additional financial coverage. And actually, the word that we've been using is cyber assurance, right? With the A, right? The assurance being kind of a trifecta of 3 different elements. One being a security-focused MSP, which is the leading arm of making the client have a good night of sleep. Second is the CORK ongoing active monitoring platform that looks for changes, look for variants, or look for new change in the environment that the MSP can act on to prevent an incident from happening. Third is a financial coverage in the form of a warranty for the client in case something does happen, right? As perfect as we all think we are, as perfect as we get. Human error does happen, right? If that happens, that's where the warranty kicks in, and it gives your client and you instant fund access, we call it. You immediately get a virtual credit card, start working the remediation. And because we manage our own funds and we actually back all the warranty with our own capital, we actually will do the claim process to be complete within 30 days, not 30 years, not 30 months. So because for us, the way we look at it is really helping the MSP and the small, medium business get back up and running. That's our focus, and that's the uniqueness of that standpoint.
That's interesting. So now for the people on this call that are interested in covering M365, where a lot of
Yep.
you know, cyber insurance company, the only thing they really care about, in my opinion, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Carlson, is really the MFA.
Yep.
Around that. Can you guys differentiate that? Like if someone is doing active monitoring of M365 and like these, so maybe help us understand that a little.
Yeah, I'll take that in that exact instant. In fact, we actually have seen very similar situation where, let's say, the way that CORK monitoring platform, unlike any other insurance company, are you using M365 cloud email? Or do you have MFA on? You check the box, yes. They never really check if it's really happened, right? But human error happens. Let's take, for example, help desk rep goes in. Hey, Andrew, you got this issue. Let me turn off the MFA, do a diagnostic, right? Get everything sorted out. At the end of the help desk call, guess what happened? They forgot to turn MFA back on, right? That's an incident I'm sure many MSP here in the call probably might have happened in the past. CORK, our platform will look for those changes on a continuous basis the moment that you guys are enrolled. Then we'll go, wait a minute, hey, Jim, by the way, when you guys finish that call with Andrew, you actually did not turn the MFA back on. You need to go flip that switch back on. That's actually a usual incident. Another one that we have seen is that for some of your clients, you might be using two different stack. You might use M365 as your cloud email, and you might be using Okta, for example, as your MFA, right? The single sign-on. We actually have seen incident where those two stack, where you might have enrolled new email account that might not be enrolled in MFA authentication account. So we're able to look at those contrasts and notify you as an MSP to go catch it before something happens. So again, we focus a lot of the effort on the left of boom to prevent an attack from happening. If it does happen, then it pays off, versus a lot of the insured product you've seen out there today. They're more passive. They're not active, right? They wait until something does happen. The boom happened, then they will remediate. They help you to get you the financial coverage. Our goal and focus is prevention rather than reaction.
Okay. So if someone is using SaaS alerts and they did, they're doing all the right things, but a threat actor just happened to be good enough to, get credentials. Like, let's take the example, Jim, not too long ago at, the MGM, right? Where, a supposed help desk person was, calling, or, when I talk to any of the good pen testing firms that are good at social engineering, their favorite, by the way, is healthcare. Jim, I don't know if you know that. They'll call the doctor.
Yep.
And say, hey, it's the help desk. We noticed there's been some, nefarious activity on your account, and we need to reset your password. High 90 percentile. They're way better at me. But anyway, Carlson, I'm digressing. But let's just say someone's really diligent. They've got SaaS alerts, but a threat actor is good enough to socially engineer. They get a BDC. Can that stuff be covered?
Yeah, look, for us, what we can do is, do as good as everything as possible from that perspective, right? In the case we talk about healthcare, we have a lot of end client that are healthcare that also carry cyber insurance, right? What we do in that scenario, there are a couple of key things. One area is, we might see things that the MSP might not see and be able to notify them. Now, but when we see the MSP have done everything possible following the SaaS alert, configuration, everything's perfect in that case. In that scenario, when a breach does happen, we will turn to the other side of the equation to help the MSP and the client to expedite the claim process. What that really means is one is we'll provide a third-party report showing, by the way, the MSP have done everything as per spec. Nothing was missing. Cyber insurance company, go pay this. Stop pointing your fingers at the MSP, right? This is for us would become a defensive mechanism. Second is that at the end, just like we're talking about, we have instant fund access. Even in that case, we will give the MSP and the client instant fund access who has some dollars to start working with to put, maybe, for example, put up a parallel environment, run the backup. So now they can actually get the business, keep running instead of stopping the business. And third, at the end of that, let's say insurance claim process, let's say it took 6 months, right? Every single insurance policy are different. I've read about probably 100 plus of them, and they all gibberish, to be honest. They're very cryptic, right? There's things that are covered. There are things that are called co-insurance and deductible plus this. Let's say the end client end up with a $30,000 bill that they had to pay for co-insurance, which is kind of co-pay for medical plus deductible. That's where our warranty comes in to cover that for your end client. So your end client will have $0 out, have early fund access, and more importantly, now that we can help expedite the process, providing an audit of the MSP partner have done everything possible. But guess what? This threat actor was just that good. They found this little hole. They found it. That's it. There's no error on any part. This is kind of where that partnership shift. But again, our goal is to be on the left of the side of the attack, but not to the right, right? So
very cool. Jim, any questions or anybody questions so far? Jason, I see you have a comment. Is there a question there around single auth and duo? Jason? No? Yes.
by the way, I also got a Dan Somuski, my CTO, in here. In case you go super deep on tech, he's the man. He's gonna be able to give you the extra depth into the detail.
Yeah, as an MSSP, I'm super excited about what I'm seeing. I wasn't expecting this today, but certainly make a phone call when I get off here. But you know, we do have external MFA platforms like Duo and a number of others that are used obviously by MSPs.
Yep.
When they report in to Office 365, it shows a single auth, right? So when with the banks that we have, we constantly have to prove to the FFIC or NCUA examiners that we are truly using dual auth.
Yep.
And provide all these logs externally. And I know that you monitor those environments for enforcement or lack thereof. And I'm just wondering if that's a hiccup for you guys, that these external MFA tools don't report correctly into Microsoft for dual auth. And if that's a question for your tech guy, that's fine. I just something I came up with as you were talking.
I see Dan popping up. He wants to make sure I get the answer correctly. See, this is what a great CTO is. He's like, okay, I'm not going to let the CEO speak and make sure he get it right. So this is
we definitely cover Duo and can tie that to the M365 account. We pull from both integrations and we could cross compare, and we know that you're covered.
Yeah, I'll say this. It was interesting because when we first started this journey a year ago, a lot of our folks here in the engineering side of the equation are all ex-Datto. We all bleed Datto blue blood. But then you come up in the world where we need to be acknowledged how MSP community works. You guys use any tools possible. That's the best of breed for you and for your client. So our platform, we actually decided our best is support, the most popular tools, all the major RMM tools, EDR, MFA tools we do support, and we cross-reference again. And that's really where the additional dimension that you get from that perspective. So, and I'm glad that we're actually hitting the right message in place for what you guys need, because that's, it's been a lot of hard work for the team to make sure that this integration does work and deliver what you need and, give you a good night of sleep.
Carlson, I'm gonna go out on a limb here, because this is, again, Jim's kind of kicked this off, is like that we sit here and rack our brains on, I think a big differentiator for you guys could be the 365 side, meaning this is the Achilles heel. If you look at the majority, certainly of SMB attacks, right? It's going to be through an initial access broker. It's going to be through a cred compromise. Again, guys, don't shoot me. Could there be a vulnerability around, an externally facing? Yes, I get that. But, this is where we're seeing it also. Have you guys thought about that, Carlson? Like, hey, M365 and Azure configuration is really where, we want to focus and talk to MSPs. Like, hey, if you guys are doing this, this is a real differentiator. This is how we can partner and go to market, with a dual kind of SaaS alerts kind of offering. So.
Yeah, no, this is exactly why we're now, we officially came out of the stealth mode at the end of May this year, right? And we've been doing what we call early access program, was really getting some early MSP in, getting a lot of great feedback. Even to, we have clients that don't even know what they're doing. How do we get this packaging into place? And now we're getting further into the market. And this is why I want to come on the community like this to understand what you guys want, right? What do you want to see? Because at the end, this tool is not made for ourselves, it's made for you guys from the integration perspective. From an M365 perspective in Azure, we're hearing a lot of that. That's a very similar message that we've been hearing. So that's definitely, in line with what we're saying. Yeah. With Dan, any additional to add to that perspective? Because I know he have a lot of depth discussion when it comes down to integration and the roadmap that we're running.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity there, and I think we'll definitely be going in that direction. Right now, we integrate with M365 and then all third-party email security systems that you could plug into there, so we could cross compare across that too.
Yeah, Chip, Jim, any thoughts on that? Because I think this is where, this is the Achilles heel. And, Jim, you and I, how many times have I had the conversation about, well, this client won't pay for it, or, you know what I mean? We deployed it to 5 of our customers, to me, this is, not only could they drive more MRR from a monitoring like this, but also the customer could be covered at the same time. It's a great conversation.
Yeah, definitely. It opens up the conversation. I think is a great benefit at the same time.
All right. So Carlson, this is really interesting. Can you educate everybody on the traditional, what cyber insurance does outside in versus the future, which is really inside out underwriting?
Yeah, so pretty much the way that, a year ago I knew nothing about the insurance space. A year later, I still know nothing about the insurance space. The only thing I know is that it's a mystic art, right? The way that underwriting do it today for all cyber insurance, and even the one that says we have a security score, they do what we call outside in scanning. They do pen testing, they do security scoring of your outside perimeter, how healthy you are. Kind of like, I think Jim take a good example, right? Is my cut on my head, right? The gem is like, my cut on my head, yeah, okay, that cut doesn't look too bad. No internal bleeding, will look good, right? That's how the underwriting works. And also the underwriting, the pricing is purely based on historical data. They call it actuary science, right? Look at all the historical things that happen because the size of your business, the industry you're in, the number of employee you have. Well, chances that's the odd. Well, but the reality is, in the cyberspace and technology wise, things changes, right? The moment a breach happened, a vulnerability occurred, you patch it. Guess what? Actuary science doesn't work in underwriting the actual risk. And that's why you're seeing the outside in underwriting, right? Combined with actuary science is continue to drive the price up, and they're seeing a huge losses. So every dollar that they write in the industry, they pay out 60 to 70 cents of that go into paying out losses. Now, inside out is a very different approach, right? It's very similar to what Jim said, right? That, you ask a patient, do you want to stop your internal bleeding or fix the cut on the head? We're going from an internal bleeding perspective, right? We integrate directly into all your existing security stack. We're not taking some of the approach that you have seen to say, you must buy 5 of these stack security element from me, from this vendor, and this partnership will eligible for you to go purchase a cyber insurance. But even that, those are not tying together. The element for us is that the magic here is we're looking for inside out. We're looking at across the stack, right? The example that I think Jason brought up was, well, I'm using Duo, I'm using M365. Can we bring those two together to show that are there gaps, are there contrasts between accounts that are not enrolled in MFA? That's what CORK do from an inside out perspective, right? Along with that, I think you guys also know Ryan Weeks also part of this project and venture that we're working with. He's taken a lot of view to say, well, on a typical attack, what would that attack pattern looks like? What are the sequence of that look like? And how does it map into the actual signal that we might be seeing through these internal integrations to say, oh, wait a minute, actually, you might have an internal bleeding, you don't even know about it. Fix it before it occurs from happening, right? So I think the outside, inside out side of it is so different. Now, the other part we also do differently when we see these inside out, when we see the risk, the more integration that MSP like yourself integrate our platform, the lower the risk is for us, right? Most insurance company will keep the profit from that perspective. The way that we've done it is that every time you make an integration, we will give you a discount on your pricing. So you're actually making more net new MRR in this case. Now, you can decide you want to pass it back to your client. Now, some of our MSP now today will just say, I'm just going to eat up the cost and put as part of my managed service agreement, full fleet deployment. Now I know I have the financial coverage for my client as a differentiator, and they can upsell the bigger package. Or some MSPs say, hey, I'm going to keep the margin there. Every integration I make, I'll keep that saving as my margin, and I will just pass the retail cost. So there's a lot of different way of bringing it to market to the client. But ultimately, at the end, I think the differentiation is really using real-time data, continuous connection to your inside technology to help you to make the environment safer. And the safer you make them, the more money you're going to make. That's how we look at it.
Yeah, so unlike, if I'm the MSP on the call here, I'm wondering, Carlson, cyber insurance, insurance, I need to have a license.
Yep.
Is warranty different, number one, in terms of selling it? Number two, do you guys have people that can, go, hey, we really want to talk to you guys about your M365 configuration and, lack of MFA. We have concerns, we brought some, we'd love to have a conversation, or we'd love to do a webinar with, to a bunch of our customers on this, maybe the risk of, credential theft and initial access brokers, and how to tie, a SaaS alerts warranty type offering together. Can you maybe close us out with that?
Yeah. I'll close you out with this. The warranty is the beauty of this. The warranty is warranting the performance of the monitoring platform which CORK provide to you as MSP. So essentially, it is warranting the functionality of this monitoring catching something from happening, right? So what that does, it prevents you, exclude you from needing a license itself, because it's not an insurance product by design. This is kind of how we made it so that you can sell and do a markup on it. Your client will never see what pricing you get from that standpoint. If there's ever concern with all the legal document, it is still a highly regulated industry, which kind of what made me old last year. Learned everything about the insurance industry I didn't want to learn. But the mission was to create a product that MSP can sell without being licensed. And what that really does at the end, the moment you sell through, your client will have to sign an agreement. And that warranty agreement will offset the financial risk to us as CORK. So now you're out of the picture, but you're now just still helping them to help them make things better. As far as joining any of the client calls, we actually been doing a lot of those webinar session with MSP. They go, hey, can you come talk to my top 20 clients? Let's do a webinar. And it's very similar set of questions that we get asked, right? Because at the end, it's a fairly new product, right? If you think about it, I always analogy is like we created a LifeLock for small and medium business. You have a technology monitoring and preventing from happening, but something does happen, you get payout on it. But it's still a new product category in the MSP space. So our team is more than readily available, from technology resource to insurance resource, to join your call with your client if there's needed. So,
cool. All right. Awesome. Dan, thanks for joining and educating on warranties. I think it's a fascinating thing. I think it's like, again, I would really, if I'm an MSP, and like, to me, my top priority, again, simply based on threat modeling, right, is around credential theft, M365, all your social engineering aspects. Really appreciate you coming on and talking about this, because really good stuff. And I agree, the good surprise as well, Jason. Jim, you want to close us out? Any closing comments, thoughts? And
I got 2:00 I got to jump to, but great session today. Thanks for everyone attending, and look forward to seeing everyone next week.
Again, Carlson, Dan, thanks for coming. Everybody, thanks for showing up, and we'll look forward to next week.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.